Lil Durk's prison escape attempt just hit the headline, and it's all caught on camera. The Chicago rapper, known for his OTF ties and hard-hitting lyrics, tried to make a move so crazy it's got everyone asking, what was he thinking? Was he that desperate for freedom, or was someone else forcing him to test his limits? Fans are dissecting every frame of the footage, while critics are already calling it one of the wildest moves ever made. Whatever went down, one thing's for sure. This story is one for the history books. Keep watching to find out what really went down. Escaping the feds. Lil Durk's brush with the FBI reads like a high-stakes game of chess, except this time the feds had him in checkmate. The Chicago rapper, known for turning street narratives into chart-topping hits, allegedly tried to outwit federal authorities by booking not one, not two, but 3 international flights in an attempt to dodge charges tied to a murder-for-hire plot. After the arrest of 5 associates from his Only the Family crew, Durk reportedly made moves to evade what he must have known was coming. According to sources, the rapper orchestrated an elaborate plan to confuse federal investigators. The idea? Book multiple flights to throw the feds off his trail. It was a bold play, but the FBI wasn't about to let him slip through their fingers. Court documents reveal that Durk first reserved 2 one-way commercial flights, one to Dubai and the other to Switzerland. Neither of those flights were boarded, but they weren't just decoys either. This was a calculated attempt to keep federal agents guessing. Then came the third and most ambitious move, a private jet set to fly him out to Italy. But just an hour before the jet was scheduled to take off from Miami's Opa-locka Executive Airport, FBI agents closed in and took him into custody. The coordination behind the rapper's attempted escape wasn't small time. Sources close to the case said Durk's team meticulously planned the strategy, believing that the mix of commercial and private flights could bypass federal scrutiny. But the FBI, equipped with advanced tracking methods and jurisdictional cooperation, wasn't falling for it. With the flight attempts, prosecutors argue that Durk is now a flight risk, adding even more weight to an already stacked case against him. Fans and critics alike are buzzing over the boldness of Durk's alleged escape attempt. For some, it's a testament to the pressure he must have felt, knowing the charges coming his way. For others, it's seen as an act of desperation, a move that could hurt his case more than help it. Either way, it paints a picture of a man willing to go to extraordinary lengths to avoid what's waiting for him in the courtroom. Lil Durk's empire has taken a massive hit, and it wasn't just bad luck or loose lips that led to his downfall. It was the feds playing a long game, watching his every move, and listening to conversations he thought were private. The FBI had been on him for a while, piecing together the puzzle of what went down on that deadly night in August 2022. The story starts with a hit that was straight out of a movie. At just 32, Durk built an empire with his music, but the charges against him are too extensive to ignore. Durk stands accused of conspiracy, using interstate facilities to commit murder for hire, and carrying firearms, including a machine gun, in connection with a violent crime. The Justice Department says he's not alone in this. 5 other OTF affiliates, including Kayvon Cuz Grant and DeAndre Dontrell Wilson, have also been named in the indictment. Together, they're accused of carrying out a plan to hunt down Quando in Los Angeles. Here's how it all allegedly went down. Prosecutors claim that in August 2022, Durk put a bounty on Quando, promising money and opportunities in the music industry to anyone who took him out. When OTF learned that Quando was staying at a hotel in LA, the wheels were set in motion. Bank records showed that flights were booked for 5 co-conspirators to travel from Chicago to California, funded by OTF's accounts. And when booking those flights, Durk reportedly warned his associate, "Don't book no flights under no names involved with me." Durk himself wasn't just sitting back. Prosecutors allege he flew to LA on a private jet alongside Grant, a close ally. Once there, Grant reportedly bought ski masks and covered hotel costs for the crew, using a credit card linked to Durk. This wasn't just a spur-of-the-moment beef. This was a carefully orchestrated operation. The following day, August 19th, the team allegedly tracked Quando and his family in 2 rented cars, following them across the city. Their target eventually stopped at a gas station on Beverly Boulevard. That's where things turned deadly. Prosecutors say the crew pulled up behind the station, jumped out, and opened fire. 18 rounds were sprayed, and while Quando and his sister escaped unscathed, his cousin, 24-year-old Saviaya Robinson, wasn't so lucky. He lost his life in the ambush. The FBI has evidence that Durk was pulling the strings from behind the scenes. Court records reveal he ordered the hit, financing the operation through OTF's bankroll. The money trail was there. One-way flights booked for 5 co-conspirators from Chicago to California, all allegedly paid for with OTF funds. And Durk, he made sure to cover his tracks, reportedly telling his associate not to book any flights under names connected to him. But even with the precautions, the feds were one step ahead. They weren't just watching, they were listening. Wiretaps picked up conversations, including Durk's instructions to his crew. And when Durk himself flew to California on a private jet that same day, accompanied by OTF's Kayvon Cuz Grant, the FBI wasn't far behind. Grant allegedly bought ski masks for the shooters and paid for their hotel rooms, using a credit card in Durk's name. The whole operation, from start to finish, was being tracked. The hit went down in broad daylight, daylight in one of LA's busiest areas. It was chaos that put innocent bystanders at risk, and while Durk might have believed he could make moves unnoticed, the FBI had a different strategy in mind. Ackle Davis, the assistant director of the FBI's Los Angeles field office, stated that the apprehension of Mr. Banks as he attempted to leave the United States served as proof of the FBI and its partners' extensive reach. Davis explained that while suspects might go about their lives thinking they got away with it, the FBI is busy piecing together facts that ultimately lead to their undoing. The FBI wasn't working alone. The Los Angeles Police Department played a pivotal role, collaborating with federal agencies to build the case. LAPD Chief Dominic Choi described the operation as a multi-state, multi-jurisdictional effort that required extensive surveillance, forensic investigations, and numerous search warrants. However, the situation took an unexpected turn when reports surfaced about potential betrayal within Durk's inner circle. OTF member Jam, who was previously serving a 12-year sentence for attempted murder, allegedly cooperated with the feds. It is rumored that Jam may have been wired, providing information about the plot, all the while he was pretending to be buddies with Durk. Footage of him leaked where he's sitting in an interrogation room, casually, eating a McDonald's meal. The video has gone viral, fueling jokes online where people allege that he snitched on Durk for a Big Mac and fries. While social media has turned the incident into a series of memes, the implications for Durk remain anything but humorous. This whole situation shows just how deep the feds were into Durk's operation. Even though Durk literally paid Jam $50,000 as soon as he got out of jail, the feds got to him first.
Up some money, do something. Like, we winning, bro. I can do it. Whatever it is I want to do, I can do it. Buy what I want, do what I want. Y'all can't do that.
They were building a case, piece by piece, watching and listening as everything unfolded. From the money trail to the wiretaps, they had him locked in before he even knew what was happening. Lil Durk's world is spinning out of control, and the stakes have never been higher. The Chicago rap icon, celebrated for his come-up from the trenches to the top of the game, is now staring down the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. But this isn't just a single incident gone wrong. This case feels like the climax of a story that's been brewing for years. The federal government is accusing Durk of conspiracy, using interstate facilities to organize the plot and firearm violations that include carrying and discharging a machine gun. If convicted, the penalties are as severe as they come: life in federal prison. For someone who's fought so hard to escape the streets, the irony is suffocating. The feds aren't pulling any punches. They've zeroed in on Durk and his OTF crew, alleging that their bonds go deeper than music. According to investigators, this isn't just a rap collective. It's an organization tied to street violence, with Durk allegedly calling the shots. The FBI claims they've pieced together a web of evidence, wiretaps, text messages, and surveillance that directly ties Durk to the plot. They say he wasn't just a bystander, but the mastermind, coordinating every detail from flights to hotel rooms, even down to the weapons used in the attack. They are sitting on a stockpile of evidence, including intercepted calls where plans were made, discussions about money exchanged, and coded messages that prosecutors say all point back to Durk. They claim he told his associates not to book travel under any names that could be traced to him, a move they argue shows he knew exactly what he was doing. Add to that the use of OTF funds for flights and ski masks, and the feds believe they have a rock-solid case. But for Durk, tracks that once felt like gritty storytelling now sound eerily prophetic. The thought of life in prison looms large over Durk's head, and federal charges don't leave much room for hope. The severity of these allegations has even sparked wild speculation online, with TikTok users flooding timelines with rumors about Durk facing the electric chair. While that's not legally on the table, the mere fact that people believe it shows how high the stakes are. Durk's plea of not guilty sets the stage for a courtroom showdown, but the mountain ahead is steep. His legal team will need to pick apart the government's case, dismantling every piece of evidence to convince a jury that the man who's graced Billboard charts and award stages isn't the same person orchestrating violent retaliation. But this isn't the first time Durk has found himself staring down the possibility of jail time. The rapper has faced the system before and managed to make it out, each time seemingly stronger and more focused. This time, though, the stakes feel different. OTF links. Lil Durk's life has always been one deeply entangled with the streets, and his past brushes with the law show that he's no stranger to violence and the consequences that come with it. Long before he was a Grammy-winning rapper and a voice for the streets, Durk was a young man trying to survive the harsh realities of Chicago's South Side. His early run-ins with the law set the tone for the challenges he'd face as he rose to fame. Back in 2011, Durk, still carving his path in the rap game, was arrested after police found a loaded .40 caliber handgun in his car. As the story goes, house when law enforcement approached. He tried to toss the weapon into the vehicle, but it wasn't enough to avoid getting caught. The charge: unlawful use of a weapon by a felon. For many, this would have been a wake-up call, but for Durk, it was just another chapter in his life deeply tied to Chicago's violent backdrop. The arrest in 2011 wasn't his first dance with the system, though. That same year, he was pulled over in a separate incident, this time caught drinking in a car. Inside the vehicle, police discovered a gun with a defaced serial number, a charge that carries heavy weight. Durk was hit with aggravated unlawful use of a weapon. Pleading guilty, he spent time behind bars, only to be released in July 2012. But the legal troubles didn't end there for the rapper. In 2013, he found himself back in handcuffs when Chicago police raided his home in Orland Park and allegedly uncovered another loaded firearm. As a convicted felon, the charge carried serious consequences, and he spent weeks in jail before posting a bond. During interviews, Durk later claimed the gun wasn't his, but the situation only reinforced the narrative that he couldn't fully escape the streets, even as his music career was beginning to gain traction. These incidents were reflections of a lifestyle entrenched in survival.
House I grew up in, you know what I'm saying, my grandma's house. This is where it all started at, you know what I'm saying? Just the rap, the whole stop going to school.
For Durk, growing up in the infamous Englewood neighborhood meant facing violence head-on, and often that meant being armed. His lyrics, raw and unfiltered, have always been a reflection of his reality, detailing the struggles of navigating a world where loyalty, power, and protection come at a high cost.
It showed me to be a man, you know what I'm saying? Nobody won't think about make it out of here.
The arrests in 2011 and 2013 are just reminders that Durk's relationship with violence isn't new. These early charges, paired with the environment he grew up in, shaped not just the man, but the artist. They're the reason why his music hits so hard, because it's authentic, a reflection of a life that doesn't let go easily. Durk's ties to violence run even deeper when you consider the people around him. From his association with the Chicago drill scene, a genre born out of the city's most dangerous neighborhoods, to his crew, Only the Family, which has faced its own share of scrutiny, Durk's life has always been a balancing act between music and the streets. It's this duality that has made him a compelling figure in hip-hop, but also a target for law enforcement. His recent arrest has reignited conversations about his ties to the infamous Black Disciples gang, a connection that has followed him from the streets of Chicago to the heights of the rap game. If you know Durk's backstory, the dots almost connect themselves. Born and raised in the Englewood neighborhood of South Chicago, Durk was exposed to violence from an early age. This isn't just any neighborhood. It's one of the most dangerous areas in the country, a place where joining a gang often feels like less of a choice and more of a necessity. By the time he was 17, Durk had already faced the weight of adult responsibilities. He became a father while still in high school, and that pressure pushed him to take his music dreams seriously. But with the streets all around him, he had to shift into survival mode. At Paul Robeson High School, Durk found himself on the edge of two worlds, one that offered a chance to escape and another that demanded loyalty to his environment. Dropping out of school, he chose the latter, fully stepping into the life of the Black Disciples, a gang that loomed large in his Englewood neighborhood. The Black Disciples aren't just any gang. They're a Chicago institution with a history steeped in power struggles, alliances, and street politics. For Durk, joining was about protection for himself and his family and belonging to something bigger, a crew that gave him both an identity and a reputation. But with that loyalty came consequences. Almost immediately after aligning with the Black Disciples, Durk found himself on law enforcement's radar. His early arrests for gun charges in 2011 and 2013 were tied to a lifestyle where being armed wasn't optional. Durk wasn't alone in this life. His peers, names like Chief Keef, Lil Reese, and the late King Von, were all cut from the same cloth. They were street poets, telling raw, unfiltered stories of the struggles they lived every day. Von's death in 2020 was a stark reminder that even as these artists climbed the charts, their pasts were never far behind. Now, with murder for hire charges looming over him, Durk's connection to the Black Disciples feels more relevant than ever. Federal prosecutors are showing him out to be an artist who never fully left the streets behind, alleging that his ties to the gang extend far beyond his music. According to them, Durk's OTF crew isn't just a rap collective either. They're connected to being an extension of the Black Disciples, a group that uses music to fund and mass criminal activities. One of Chicago's most feared gangs, the Black Disciples, have a reputation for being ruthless and deeply connected. When it comes to Durk, those ties might play a role, whether it's through pressuring witnesses, tampering with evidence, or pulling strings behind the scenes. But let's be real, the system knows how these gangs operate, and law enforcement isn't about to let it slide. The feds stay ready for moves like this, and they're locking down every angle to keep things legit. Still, with the Disciples' power and resources, you can't help but wonder, could they actually shift the odds in Durk's favor? The influence and operations of the OTF crew have also been raising questions about how their street power could potentially shape Durk's fate.
So what's OTF?
OTF is on Only the Family.
Okay, what does it consist of?
It was just a lot of just hang out,
basically, for real.
Durk tried passing off his crew as just some other rap collective, focused on family values, but they're much more than that. Only the family slowly grew into a street organization with roots that run deep in violent turf wars, contract killings, and a reputation for retaliation. Their track record, spanning from Chicago to Jamaica, shows how they don't just operate in the shadows. They command respect and fear on the streets. The Black Disciples, Durk's original crew, shaped his early life, but OTF has amplified that influence on a global scale. Evidence of OTF's reach and ruthlessness can be seen in incidents like the Sanford shooting, where members reportedly targeted rapper Jack Boy after a feud connected to Kodak Black. This attack, which left an innocent woman dead, was a calculated move to solidify power and reputation. The aftermath, over a dozen arrests, but not before OTF demonstrated its readiness to escalate conflicts to lethal levels. In Jamaica, OTF has shown its adaptability, aligning with local gangs like the Vietnam Sparta Gang and the Big Yard Gang. Authorities there have tied OTF to lottery scamming, contract killings, and the illegal arms trade. The Joint Anti-Gang Task Force in Jamaica has consistently found caches of weapons and ammunition linked to OTF operations, showing how deeply embedded they are in organized crime. One of the most publicized examples of OTF's influence came with the 2020 murder of Chicago rapper FBG Duck. Shot outside a Dolce & Gabbana store in broad daylight, the attack left 2 others injured and sparked widespread outrage. Duck's mother, Lashina Weekly, has since filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Durk, his label, and even high-profile brands connected to his image, accusing them of fueling a culture of violence for profit. Court filings suggest that King Von, another OTF affiliate, had a personal vendetta against FBG Duck. Prosecutors claim OTF members orchestrated Duck's murder as part of a larger branding effort to reinforce their reality rap persona, where violent acts directly feed into the authenticity of their music. Durk's arrest puts him at the center of a storm, but OTF's history suggests they're no strangers to handling heat. The group has a proven ability to retaliate against threats and sway outcomes through street-level influence, whether it's intimidating witnesses, leveraging local loyalties, or navigating the complexities of legal battles. OTF's network could play a critical role in determining whether Durk walks free or faces serious time. OTF operates less like a music label and more like a gang, using its violent reputation as part of its brand identity. This duality is why the FBI is currently trying to pin a RICO case on the group. The question now is whether OTF's influence can shield Durk from the full weight of the federal charges he's facing. But no amount of money or gang backing is going to stop the blow jail times about to drop on his career, and maybe even his whole life. Facing the music. Lil Durk's arrest has already sent ripples through his career, and now it looks like his highly anticipated album, Deep Thoughts, might be the latest casualty of his legal troubles. The project, originally set to drop on October 18th, has reportedly been pushed back indefinitely. For an artist of Durk's stature, this kind of delay is a major setback, both creatively and financially. Durk was gearing up for a huge release with Deep Thoughts, featuring tracks like Monitoring Me, Turn Up a Notch, and Late Checkout with Hunk Show. Snippets teased heavy-hitting bars and introspective vibes, showing Durk once again blending street tales with personal growth. But now, the promotional train is off the tracks. The visuals he dropped recently, including one shot in front of London's iconic Big Ben, were hyping fans up, only to leave them wondering when or if they'll hear the finished product anytime soon. This delay is now being seen as part of the fallout from his current legal battles. Albums are major business for artists. A delay means less momentum, fewer streams, and lost revenue. And for someone like Durk, who was on a winning streak after Almost Healed and its Grammy-winning single All My Life featuring J. Cole, this stall could cost him millions in album sales, merch, and tour opportunities. The timing couldn't be worse. Durk has spent the past few years climbing to the top of the game, going from a Chicago street rapper to a global star. Albums like The Voice and Almost Healed showcased his ability to balance raw, street-hardened lyrics with introspection and mainstream appeal. While fans have been ride or die for Durk through past controversies, the constant delays and distractions could test even the most loyal. And let's not forget the ripple effect on everyone involved in the project. Producers, collaborators, and even label execs who've invested time and money into Deep Thoughts are all feeling the heat. Albums aren't made in a vacuum, and when the lead artist gets caught up in the legal drama, everyone from the AANDR team to the marketing department feels the strain. What's really wild is how this ties back to the street life Durk has always rapped about. His rise to fame was built on authenticity, but now that same connection to the streets is threatening to derail everything he's worked for. The very themes that made him relatable to millions, loyalty, survival, and revenge, are now playing out out in real time, with devastating consequences. Running from the feds while under active investigation, that's a move that'll have prosecutors sharpening their knives. For Lil Durk, booking multiple flights, 2 one-way tickets to international destinations, and a private jet to Italy might have felt like a way to outsmart authorities, but it's only added more heat to his case. Federal prosecutors don't just see this as a logistical move, they see it as a loud and clear signal: guilt. In the courtroom, this kind of maneuver is the stuff that makes juries and judges suspicious, and the prosecution will almost certainly argue that it was a calculated attempt to escape justice. One of the most damning accusations Durk faces is tied to murder-for-hire charges, a federal crime that's about as serious as it gets. Under 18 U.S.C. Section 1958, this charge hits anyone who organizes or pays for a murder that crosses state or national lines. And when the feds bring these charges, they don't play around. Sentences for murder-for-hire cases often include life in prison without parole. And while Illinois doesn't use the death penalty, the weight of this charge alone is enough to crush most defendants. The feds have a near unbeatable record in cases like this. About 98% of federal prosecutions end in guilty verdicts, many through plea deals. If convicted, Durk could be looking at decades behind bars, or even life. And those flights, they're not helping. Prosecutors will likely frame them as evidence of a deliberate and premeditated effort to flee. That's the kind of thing that can unravel a defense team's argument about innocence or lack of intent. On top of the legal firestorm, Durk's public image is taking hits from every angle. The mayor of Broadview, Illinois, who once praised him for his contributions to local youth through his Neighborhood Heroes Foundation, has revoked his honorary key to the city. Initially, the award was meant to recognize Durk's efforts in uplifting his community, but now, with murder-for-hire allegations splashed across headlines, Mayor Katrina Thompson has drawn a hard line.
That's history in making, people. That's history in the making.
While she acknowledged that everyone deserves their day in court, she made it clear that Broadview holds its public figures to a high standard, and that includes avoiding even the perception of wrongdoing. The decision to revoke Lil Durk's honorary key to the city has sparked heated public debate. For some, it's a clear stand for community values, drawing a hard line against even the perception of criminal activity. For others, it feels like premature punishment, a reaction that unfairly targets Durk before the courts have even delivered a verdict. Either way, the fallout is another blow to an artist who's now battling not just federal charges, but the court of public opinion. When it comes to federal cases like this, intent is everything. Prosecutors will zero in on Durk's alleged actions, framing his multiple international flight bookings as calculated moves to evade capture. On the other hand, his defense team might argue that the travel arrangements were misunderstood or mishandled, maybe overbooked, maybe a coincidence, but not evidence of a guilty conscience. Proving otherwise could be key to shaping how the jury perceives it. Then there's the wild card, OTF Jam, a former close associate reportedly cooperating with authorities. If Jam's testimony becomes central to the case, Durk's legal team will likely aim to discredit him, painting him as someone who's snitching to save his own skin. They'll dig into his motivations, questioning any deals or leniency he might have received in exchange for turning on Durk. The goal? To sow doubt about the reliability of Jam's account and shift focus away from Durk's alleged involvement. Still, the stakes couldn't be higher. Murder-for-hire charges under federal law are no joke. Convictions often bring penalties exceeding 20 years, and in some cases, they stretch into life sentences, or worse. Federal prosecutors rarely lose, boasting conviction rates that hover near 98%. For Durk, that means any misstep in his defense could be catastrophic, leaving him facing decades or the rest of his life behind bars. For comparison, consider recent cases like one in 2024, where an individual was sentenced to life plus 78 months for a similar charge. Those numbers highlight the severity of what Durk is up against and how unforgiving the legal system can be when it comes to violent crimes that span state or international borders. This isn't just about legal jeopardy, though. The ripple effects on Durk's career are already being felt. The revoked key to Broadview, that's symbolic of a larger problem, the risk of losing public goodwill and corporate backing. Brand sponsorships, partnerships, and collaborations hinge on a clean image, and with these charges hanging over him, many might reconsider their ties to the rapper. For an artist who's built a brand as both a street poet and a global star, the damage could be immeasurable. But let's not forget that this kind of struggle is a recurring theme in hip-hop. The culture thrives on authenticity and street credibility, but those same elements often come with real-world baggage. Durk's rise was built on loyalty, grit, and a connection to his roots, yet those ties now threaten to bring it all crashing down. The tension between fame and the streets is nothing new, but for Durk, it's playing out on the largest and most public stage possible. As the case moves forward, the pressure will only intensify. Whether he accepts a plea deal to reduce his sentence or takes his chances at trial, the stakes remain sky high. If convicted, he could lose everything he's built: the music, the money, the influence, and the freedom to enjoy any of it. And even if he clears his name, the process itself is bound to leave lasting scars on his career, career, his reputation, and his legacy. Durk's story is emblematic of hip-hop's complicated relationship with the streets. It's a world that prizes loyalty and authenticity, but often punishes those same values with harsh consequences. Whether he manages to beat these charges or not, this chapter will forever alter his place in the game and serve as a reminder of just how high the cost of keeping it real can be. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, click on one of the videos on your screen to dive into more content from our channel. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more.